Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Sorry for the rain and the fall weather. I don't know about you, but I finally turned off the heat of my on my outdoor pool. I guess Monday after I went swimming. I'm glad I did. The temperature dropped 18 degrees in 2 days. So in the pool, which is not the air temperature. Okay, here are the things we're going to go over today, and I'm delighted you came and joined us for an update. We will have time for questions. I'm going to go through a lot of material. On the bottom, you'll see, so I don't end up speaking to every slide, the things that are directly related to the strategic plan that we initiated about a year ago are in the blue-gray, so you'll see that as we pass by. So talk about all of you first, and then some of our issues related to diversity goals. I'm going to go through the incredible work of the Vice Dean team. Sometimes you forget why we have them, how important they are, and the important work that they do for the schools, and some strategic initiatives, and we'll end up with questions. So I'll just remind you, we're here to improve health globally by linking research to populations in a superb education environment, and that we use the really rather unique and extraordinary consortium of our medical school faculty across all of our Cleveland medical institutions to create integrated teams to educate trainees, link disciplines to discover the mysteries and treatments of serious disease, and to understand and eliminate health inequities in Cleveland and across the world. And the truth be that we've made significant progress on all these fronts just over the past year. So by the numbers, this is how our population of students, staff, and faculty have increased over the past year, with 66 new postdoc recruits, 150 staff, 355 faculty. I'll get to the undergraduate, graduate education group in a few slides. So of the 355 new faculty with academic appointments, they distribute in this way. You'll see the largest number actually from university hospitals, and otherwise quite robust addition and expansion of our entire faculty. We had the investiture of 12 endowed chairs. I hope to do another 12 this year. And I'm sorry that most of you don't come. They're actually really cool hour and a half engagements where we understand the background of the donor for each one of these endowed professorships, and the recipient tells their story of academic growth and achievements. And they're fun to be at, so please come and enjoy us for an hour. A couple of significant well-known individuals received congratulations from CASE. Nate Berger, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the alumni just a couple weeks ago. I was delighted to be able to bestow George Jubiak with the CASE Medal for Excellence in Health Sciences Innovation. I'll remind you that he was probably the 13th recipient. We'll have a reception for him on Thursday. This was initiated by Pam when she was the dean. It's a fun thing to do, and I'm going to encourage George to bring his medal, wear it around his neck, because it weighs a lot, because it's actual silver. So I'm reminded that it's an expensive item that ought to be insured. And then Pam and Jonathan went through the Distinguished University Professor process. It's remarkably competitive, not only in the school, but also in the university. So it's too often that some of our best candidates don't make the cut with those history and music professors. But I'm glad for Pam and Jonathan. We've added some individuals to the School of Medicine Leadership Committee, our team rather. There's Bill Sheeman, who walked in, and one of these days we're going to get him to smile, as Vice Dean for Research. Derek Taylor has just taken on a position as Assistant Dean for Shared Resources. We really should be spending money upgrading our shared resources. So if you have a favorite pet major piece of equipment, let him know and we'll figure it out. Elizabeth Fessenfeld, Chief of Staff, whom if you haven't met her, she's a whirlwind of activity and keeping us active and honest and competitive. I suspect, however, that the kingpin of the people that you want to meet and spend time with is Kim Rossi, because I hear a lot about human resources, and she's going to solve all of your problems. And when she can't, she's going to come to Elizabeth and then me, and we'll figure it out. So just in the last couple of days, she's met with a couple of chairs and been referred to a couple of folks both on this campus, and I hope I'm solving a problem of one of our psychiatry faculty at the school at UH who's seeking support for people that she wants to hire. I'm not sure why Ed is smiling here, but I know that his elder son just graduated from our medical school and is off to a superb orthopedic surgery residency. He's now a member of the Academy for Master Educators. And Gautam has a serious job, that's why he's not smiling, being appointed to the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force. That's a big deal. It's the entity that helps us all understand anything from supplements to screening to blood pressure management, et cetera, cancer management and screening. It's a really important role, and I'm delighted that he has that well-recognized position. Our students also have been active. These are 3 in the area of diversity in education, curriculum development, and in one infant mortality that have been recognized both regionally and nationally, and we're proud of them for making it along in that line. 7 of our graduate students have received F awards as part of their training, and so that means that they're both good and their mentors are good as well, and it's a good distribution of our faculty. Having these awards really is a stepping stone to a good academic career, and I'm proud of them. And then Bill, still not smiling, received his trainee received a K99R00, again a highly competitive career development award. In the leadership searches, we're still navigating pharmacology, the director of the Cancer Center. We're bringing in the final set of candidates for genetics. We're starting the search for Vice Dean for Finance and Administration, and we will be sorting through the recruitment process for the Vice Dean for Diversity and Inclusive Excellence and the Assistant Dean for Finance. So we're a little thin in the finance space. The team that's here is doing an incredible job, but we're a little thin, so we've got to be a little bit patient with how we move along. In pharmacology, I think I see a couple of members of the department here on Monday that I'd like them to start a faculty search process for at least a couple of faculty, so we get that process going. They've been too long in the tooth waiting for a chair, so we'll get searches for their faculty cooking along. Move on to diversity goals and strides. So we've asked both faculty and staff to tell us who they are by their own rendition. This is who we are on the faculty on the left and staff on the right. The staff turned out to be much more able to tell us who they are than the faculty do. So 22% of us at the faculty level are not yet able to inform us about their gender diversity backgrounds. It's really important data if we're going to try to understand who we are and how we navigate, where we should emphasize, et cetera. So it's a little bit inconvenient to do so. We do keep it confidential. It does get seen, but it's really important for us to appreciate our demographics. And this level of demographics is remarkably imprecise, I think. Think how many backgrounds are in the white category, think how many backgrounds are in the Asian category, et cetera. But it's a start, something that I think we want to pay attention to more, both for our needs for diversity and appreciation of other cultures and backgrounds, as well as for our training activities going forward. So how do you do it? At facultyinformationservice.case.edu, so that's FIS, it's not very hard. You do have to be able to get into the system with the duo authentication required. And go to My Details and Personal Information, do a few click boxes, and you'll have handled that request from us. So we're going to send out a reminder. Please do so if you haven't. It helps us and it'll help you as well. What are our goals? Well, this is complicated, period, or maybe plus. But what we'd like to do is get our student population on the order of 24% of underrepresented groups in science and medicine, both at the MD class and the graduate student class. We'd like to move that higher, but I think we got to get to 24% first. We do have pipeline links to historically black colleges and universities for both master's as well as MD and PhD programs. We've initiated and probably have the first class this year of Dean Scholars Program, which is to specifically identify graduate students who are moving on to a postdoc, to encourage them to consider staying here and pursuing a path with intense support and oversight from postdoc to faculty within the next 5 years, with both additional financial support, training, and a mentoring environment. So we hope to be able to attract 2 or 3 a year for that, and we realize the issues and costs of scholarship debt. The undergraduate first years in the college are 26% underrepresented, and we have a prep program, small but from underrepresented backgrounds at the college level. All of those are candidates who could come to us and be part of our graduate training program in both the MD and the PhD track. So we've got a lot of folks around. We need to recruit them in and encourage them to be part of our graduate programs. So where are we? The medical school class this year was 17% from underrepresented backgrounds, plus a variety of others. I'll point out the gender mix, which you can see, but also 39 students from something that's a little odd for the rest of us called distance traveled score, which is not how far away you are from home, although it could be, but is more an indication if you grew up in Appalachia, were the first to go to college, had scholarships all through your small classroom in grade school, et cetera, managed your way into a scholarship at Ohio State, worked for a few years, and then came to the medical school. That's a hard course and a lot of distance traveled for you to become to our medical school. So I'm delighted that 39 of our students made it here after that duress to get here. We also, as you can see, have a broad distribution of sources of where people originate from. In the PhD program, it's fairly similar, with 19% of our underrepresented students in the entire program. This year's class is a little under 1195 PhDs in the total program, better in the MSTP MD PhD program, and 16% over the 8-year course of that group. So we're better at the student level than we are at the faculty level, but we're still well below where we want to be. And if you think about the fact that the United States Census is even more shifted towards a broader representative of diversity than we are here in any way, we have a long way to go. Let me move on to the Vice Dean's activities. So Blanton, who's been Vice Dean for Diversity and Inclusive Excellence, now turning much of his activities over to Tina Leining as the director of that program. Blanton is leaving us. I'm glad we groomed him to an incredible position as HHMI Director of Science, Leadership, and Culture. He leaves in about a week. These are things that he's accomplished. I won't go through the details, but they're all phenomenally good activities. They take an hour of your time, book club, engagement, lectures, and dialogues. Please come. We'd like to hear your voice and your perspective, and I think you'll enjoy the activity. Mike Constant, who's a quiet leader, is Vice Dean for Translational Research, somehow submitted with Grace McComsey the CTSC renewal application, which is a rather amazing submission. It's a suite of 7 grants, as you can see here, with a huge amount of funding, largest in the university and probably in the city and the state. It supports, when it's funded, which we'll hear about in about 6 months, almost 100 faculty, 55 almost full-time staff, and 30 pre- and postdocs. So it's a huge award with huge impact across the school and our faculty. And this year, they brought in Northeast Ohio Medical University and Toledo as partners, which helped us get over a cap to enlarge the size and scope of our activities. Mike also leads, and you don't see this very much, a remarkable program linking the Department of Medicaid with the 7 Ohio medical schools, with 4 major programs, all with significant activity in the community around opioid reduction, risk reduction, cardiovascular diabetes, and infant mortality, and a variety of training programs. So these are incredible activities that take the school's competencies and bring them well and deeply into the community. Incredibly valuable service. If I move on to the Office of Faculty, Cynthia Caboo, as Vice Dean, is helping to oversee the Faculty Affairs Program. I'll remind you that they appoint and promote through the committee and through all the paperwork and collecting of information, 600 people over the course of a year. That's about 3 per working day, every day, split between new and promotions. We are going to undertake a review of our criteria and approach to appointment, promotion, and tenure with an ad hoc committee that's just forming now. We also train a huge number of faculty under the Office of Faculty in a variety of career development and career support and career leadership training with specialized activities and subgroups of our population of faculty. And we have just established a Dean's Committee on Professionalism to help make sure that we align interests and values. Leah Lojo has been remarkably busy in medical education. We've done a slight jigger in the curriculum that allows a 12-week period between the first and second year for a research project, which becomes a thesis at the end of the 4 years. We have something called the Research Project Portal, which is open to all faculty who would be interested in taking in a medical student. I would encourage both our MD and our PhD faculty to do so. We've had about 40 or 50 responses to that query. We have 173 students, so it would be nice if we brought that up to close to 200. And we'll be sending out tomorrow a reminder to please respond to the opportunity to have a medical student come work with you. We have 2 new pathway programs, one in climate and health, which I mentioned last year as an interest, as another one in medical education scholarship, i.e. as an academic exercise. We have a new learning management systems portal methodology, and it's important, we try to understand and track what we train, when we train, how we train, and what the material is, and that allows us to be much more flexible in evolving our curriculum. Things happen, things we want to teach better, things we want to teach more of. In particular, for instance, 47 faculty are involved in analyzing our curriculum for its thoughtfulness around diversity and inclusive excellence. We're piloting a program in geriatric care. We have 3 new staff for both the PA program for curriculum and a phenomenal educator in the simulation center, Daniel Salcido, who I met with and toured with just yesterday. Every once in a while, we get evaluated, and our LCME accreditation is coming up in a little more than 2 years. So we're on the runway for it. At the faculty level in green, we will be having a retreat early next year, a self-study around the whole complexity of medical education, a very formal process that the AAMC encourages, oversees, and expects data from. A student survey. It's a little frightening, the challenges that they had during COVID. We hope that they're all feeling better about themselves. Frankly, I think they are. And then they complete a self-study as well that they report and that we're responsible for. And then there's a mock and then a real site visit in about 2 years. So it's a real process. We hope to do quite well. we've been hearing a lot of stories about others' experiences of the medical school, so it's quite serious process. I'm sure we'll do fine, but the amount of work it takes to get there is huge. On the PhD side, master's side, Marvin Neiman is settled in as vice dean. The program size, I think, is far larger than Marvin imagined when he took on the job. I've been encouraged to increase the size of our our PhD program, and this past year we accepted 47 students. That's the largest class we've had for a long time. We'd love to graduate folks more quickly, but nonetheless, we now have a cohort of over 412 doctoral students, and the dean supports the first year so that the faculty aren't burdened with that education and stipend cost. It's real dollars, which we pull out of other obligations to support a very important PhD program. We do have an expanded curriculum for both pre-docs and for postdocs, and we're looking hard at the chair level to encourage career development efforts for our postdoc colleagues and to encourage them to stay in an academic medicine environment. I mentioned the Dean Scholars Program. And we are expanding, I hope enough, the graduate office so that we can offer more in terms of career development, grant preparation, and tracking of our trainees. In research administration, you got to give Bill a tickle so he starts to smile. The infrastructure efforts, I think, are substantial. He's been quite serious taking on this area. I'm just going to mention a few highlights. One is a space planning committee. We are hoping that we do some evolution about the Institute of Pathology as well as Robbins 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're currently renovating Robbins 1, so that's 2, 3, and 4 left, and we have tentative approval from the university to do so. So I expect we'll develop real plans for that over the next 12 months and then start renovations soon thereafter. We recognize the importance and the support and the needs for shared resources, both oversight, operations, and upgrades. So if and as issues come up, get them to Bill, and we'll be as responsive as we can along with Derek Taylor. We have revamped the Council to Advance Human Health, and the successes in the tech transfer space are quite real and substantial, and I'm delighted with them. So we would love to encourage, and I'll spend a little more time with you later, not today, but later, on how to help commercialization strategies and translational strategies for the many, many inventions that you undertake. It turns out we do a pretty good job with invention disclosures and patent applications and even with licensing deals. So we want to help move that process along. And in conjunction with the space planning is the idea of really building out larger research teams. I'm going to move on to our vice deans for development and alumni affairs. One of the things that's actually hardest for individual faculty to understand and appreciate is when the development office or a philanthropy environment talks about attainment. Like, what's that? So here it is, at least my understanding. So attainment are cash gifts, multi-year pledges, estate gifts, estate plans, estate assurances, life insurance policies. They may be spendable, they may be endowments, they may come along as a generational activity with a family office where the parents may obligate some funds and then the children may obligate other funds, and so that may take you over years, half decades, decades. And then, of course, the value of endowments and estate gifts accrue over decades. So we're still seeing the revenue stream come in for the first time from the capital campaign that ended now 4 or 5 years ago. So attainment is the effort in real time of resourcing the funding source, not the dollar you get to spend. And that's the way academic institutions work. We're not any different than any other. But it's not so simple as to say that we get to spend it today or tomorrow. So what do we use it for? So some of these are endowed shares, some of them are either focused or endowed support for research projects or equipment purchases, often with a specific faculty member in mind. Also, at the medical school level, a huge amount of effort around scholarship support, both for the medical program and the graduate program, research fellowships as well. And then there may be a donor who comes with an area of interest. Family members have multiple sclerosis. I want to fund multiple sclerosis research. And then the development officers come to me and say, who does multiple sclerosis research? Do you know anybody? So sometimes those are very much donor-directed and donor interests, and then we try to fund and support those on a competitive basis using pilot program mechanisms. And then there's a small but real amount of dollars that are flexible that come in through what we call the annual support fund, which is the catalytic fund. And so a very large amount of dollars may shrink to a very small amount of dollars that the dean actually has discretion for. So feel my pain, but enjoy the ride. So here's how we've done. Over the past year, $47 million was raised in attainment, with $44 million of commitments. The first quarter of this year, we did a little bit better than the last quarter, but it starts to add up, $1 million or $2 million extra increases over the course of the year. Same thing with the catalytic fund. We raised about $3.5 million, $3.3 million last year, and we're a little bit ahead in the first quarter. It doesn't, each quarter is not a multiple. There's ebbs and flows. End of the year is the middle of the second quarter for us, and then the June rush, if you will. Alumni time is a special time. So it's not a flat amount, but we're doing better year over year than we had, and we're rebuilding and expanding the development team. And I do my best to help the efforts and support the mission and orientation and priorities that the development team has and the people that I get to meet. So I think we're doing reasonably well, and we will continue to aim higher year over year. As an example of activities, we had reunion weekend just 2 weeks ago with the distinguished lecture sponsored by the dean. We brought 2 graduate students back from the Department of Biochemistry, Yuling Liu and Jay Short, who graduated. One left as the other came in their biochemistry training period. Hugely successful serial entrepreneurs, rather, now each onto their 4th or 5th major company. Neither did a postdoc, but that's okay. They're doing quite well. And they were incredibly enthusiastic coming back and both visiting with us. And I think this sort of engagement breeds their connectivity with us and opportunities, again, for our graduate students as well. And so we have a number of entrepreneurial folks who come back and say, where's your next best graduate student? So if that's a career path for some of us, that's just great. And then, of course, during the alumni weekend, we have a dinner event with award ceremony, a series of lectures, series of events to interact alumni and students, class dinners. And this past year, the reunion classes, the 2s and the 7s, cumulatively have provided the school with over $10 million, most of that for scholarships. In addition, the development office, through Cynthia Ron and her team, help us identify foundation grant opportunities. Now, I realize that you guys are the experts in whatever that grant is, the topic is, and write the grant. But the truth of the matter is the development office helps tremendously in helping you identify the foundation, the award, who's eligible, what the style should be, helping you buff the final application. So we're pretty successful with 48 awards, over $100,000, helping 45 principal investigators just this past year, and raising and bringing in more than $15 million of foundation awards. The top 5 awards are shown here. They're all substantial. They're all remarkably enabling, and most of these topical areas would just never have been funded at the R01 level. So it's really not only an additional source of funding, it's a different type of funding for specialized key activities. So take advantage of those opportunities. Stop what you're doing when the opportunity arises. How'd the school do? So on the graphic is simply the key event for the university called margin. They don't really care how much money we bring in. They just care whether we're in the red or the black. So we're in the black a little bit, $7.5 million. We've done pretty stably, as you can see, year over year. Our total revenues are $538 million, all sources, tuition, grants, et cetera, gave rise to that margin. So that represents 42% of the university budget, which is about $1.2 billion, but 55% of the schools, 8 schools' budgets, so if you remove the central administration function and undergraduate tuition and the like, we remain a little more than half of the schools overall, multiple schools overall budget. And we did in fact distribute 8% salary raises to the faculty, and will be, over the course of the year, distributing 8% salary raises at the staff level. Lots of moving parts in the staff compensation model system, but we will make sure that we distribute all the appropriate dollars. What's going on with that surplus? The surplus will be used to fund the renovations for Robbins, and the sureness of the university that we will maintain our margin will allow us to begin planning a 2 or 3 year renovation for Robbins, which is good. And at the university level, they're feeling more comfortable to give us a little more leeway than they have in the past. So all that, I think, is actually quite good. What about our grants? Well, we had 5 grants over $5 million, 30 grants over $2 million. I've got some revised numbers on those in a second. 113 grants that are new R01s, and 133 non-R01 grants. Here's the better detail of all of that. So in terms of total costs, we brought in $60 million in grants that are over $2 million apiece in annual costs. So that represents 21% of our grant portfolio, and is from 19 principal investigators. So the rest of us brought in 79% of our grant dollars from 395 unique principal investigators. So that's our total of a little over $320 million. I'd love us to see and spend time on, at the individual faculty level, at our center level, at our department level, with Bill Sheeman's support and the like through the Cancer Center, CTSA, to build bigger, broader teams that can go after those bigger, much larger grants. I think if we move the number of 19 principal investigator teams bringing in grants over $2 million to say 24, 26, 30, we would enlarge our grant portfolio significantly. My father-in-law used to do a lot of fundraising, and he said, you know, if the average alum gave the median would be a heck of a lot higher. So, obviously. So, the more we can build ourselves into bigger teams, which is why we're emphasizing thinking of ourselves as coordinating our research programs across departments into bigger groups, and frankly across our sites, both the basic science departments and the clinical departments, will be much more successful, I think, moving forward into that larger program project portfolio. Strategic initiatives, let me go back. Here we go. So within the strategic plan, we've kept our 7 strategic foci across research, education, diversity, philanthropy, and impact in our community. And it's available on the website. We're doing little tweaks of it. But the 3 major areas that I want to, there we go, sorry. That I want to focus on are 3 cross-school initiatives initiated through the School of Medicine: artificial intelligence and data science, population and urban health, therapeutic discovery and development. I just want to spend a minute on each of those. They are clearly within the school, multi-departmental and multi-center, and include a variety of schools. And the reason it's important for us to think of these as a variety of schools is much of the resources is actually come in from the university without having us have to foot the bill for the whole shebang. And I think we need to be really opportune with these initiatives. They've caught the interest of the university considerably. I think they will continue to catch the interest of our hospital partners considerably. But I think we have to be opportune. And the reason I have the picture on the left is talking about being opportune. So I had a morning meeting over at the Sampson Pavilion. I was walking into the building, as you can see, and I flicked by, as I looked up, a clear moon at around 7:50 in the morning, peeking through the roof overlay and the roof of the building. That is, in fact, a full moon over there. So if somebody else ever captures that, let me know. And if you want access to that picture, which is pretty cool, be glad to. Okay, so artificial intelligence. So I'm working with Vipin Chaudhry, the chair of computer sciences in engineering, and developing a broad programmatic support approach to artificial intelligence. So we think of artificial intelligence as helping us figure out diagnosis in the EMR, or help us figure out genomic complexity of mutation analysis. The free text world of artificial intelligence allows our Bible studies chair to look at words and phrases in the Bible and link them to complex meaning and other algorithms that's important for understanding the Bible. Our arts and sciences folks are using artificial intelligence to be able to reconstruct complex broken fragments of ancient sculptures. And it's useful across climate change, across our cosmic scientists. It's remarkably complex. And at the moment, what I'm helping both engineering and the rest of the university navigate is taking advantage of the interplay between expertise and activities of artificial intelligence so that we can build a broad set of platforms rather than having one core unit. But the new interdisciplinary science and engineering building that the university is committed to, which you can see on the left-hand side, is going to need our help, because each of the three initiatives I pointed out will be able to noogle some of our scientists and research activities into, because they're viewed as interdisciplinary in these three areas, one of which is artificial intelligence. So we're getting real traction because they realize they really want to bring medicine into that building in these three areas. So the next area is population urban health, and we will both have engineering components in that building, thinking about sensors and detectors and data management systems, but also we have remarkable competency in public health in the community, both in the School of Medicine, at each of our hospitals in the city of Cleveland, and outreach efforts that we have, some of which I mentioned earlier. And in a timeliness manner, the Cleveland Foundation is planning on the building that you can see here, still in draft form, and the School of Medicine intends to bring some of its education and research programs into that building at East 65th Street, very close to an outpatient facility for university hospitals, and to Dave's Market, where we already do education kitchens. And many of our public health scientists are actively engaged in revising their curriculum and approaches to more population and urban-oriented education programs, both of our students and of the community. So I think this is an important area to move forward, both scientifically and for a population and community benefit. And the third, the least developed, is therapeutic discovery and development. So I mentioned the CAW program for bringing our new ideas forward. We have remarkable competency in therapeutics, both at the cellular level, small molecule level, antibodies, peptides, DNA, and RNA. And I really want us to expand our competencies both with chemistry and engineering, in screening and in silico modeling, target identification, fabrication, manufacture, GMP production competencies, and then move that directly into our clinical spaces with phase 0-1 clinical trials. And to get that done, you need considerable amount of coordination and support for our intellectual property, entrepreneurship, building business models, and commercialization. And for the first time, we're actually seeing the folks in the management school, engineering school, come along this pathway with us. And again, I think we can see major investments made going forward. So I'm going to end with some upcoming events. We'll have a reception for the Case Medal for George tomorrow afternoon. We have a couple of endowed chairs for Sherry Bolin and Jeffrey Caldridge. We'll have the second of our series of significant conversations, this one on tribalism in academic medicine on November 30th. Holiday breakfast early in December, and then a brunch a little later on the different campuses. And believe it or not, less than a year from now is the 100th year of the existence of the Wood Building. Still pretty functional, so we're going to have a little celebration about that. Who would have thought that building is 100 years old? So thank you. I'll take comments and questions.
But I'm wondering if you could comment on the university survey on engagement and where the School of Medicine fit in and what the steps are going forward.
Got it. So thank you. So the university did a Gallup poll. I don't really understand the data yet, and that's why I didn't present it. It was a series of 12 discrete questions that Gallup uses across organizations, commercial, nonprofit, academic, to understand the simple question of what's the engagement of the staff and of faculty. This engagement survey included respondents included about 50-ish% of our staff and our faculty. I'm still trying to get the composite data because the way they've started to distribute the data is to individual units. So like the dean's office, which has 12 people, got its data of its 12 people, 8 of whom took the survey. Well, I'm not particularly interested in the people who work directly with me. We have daily conversations. I know how we think, and we chatted about it. What I'm interested in is the faculty. The second challenge is that the individuals included were those paid by case. So I got 3,300-ish faculty, and only 400 were eligible for the survey, and about 180 took the survey. So again, I'm stuck. So the hint I have is that whatever's going on across the university, our affective engagement is actually better. That's good, because a few years ago might not have been, so it's better than the average response of the university. Okay, so it's coming. The 12 questions will be scrubbed and looked at. I want the data. I want to share the data. I'm not happy on two fronts. One, it was an engagement survey questionnaire. It didn't include all the stuff that you might be interested in asking. So I want to know what that stuff is. I'm in the process of initiating a conversation with both faculty council and the Committee on Women and Minorities to get both sets of issues and concerns. And then I think we're going to have to ask, how do we ask the questions properly? What proper survey mechanisms can we use if we don't use Gallup so we can get an assessment of who we are? Okay, now, The biggest concern across the university qualitatively is a perspective that much too high a percentage of us are disengaged, actively could care less to be here, okay? So that's not good, I get it. What we do about it, I wish I knew more where the pockets were and where the hiccups are. But it's clearly an issue. The other challenge we have with the Gallup poll, since it was done now 4 months ago, is they had a 5-year distribution of when these for-profit, non-profit, et cetera, academics took the survey. Of course, smack in the middle is COVID. So they don't quite know how to assess the responses relative to the 5 years, since 2 of those 5 years were before COVID, 2 in the middle and 1 after, or 6 months after. So there we are, and I don't have the data, but I'm keenly interested in understanding our issues so we can address them, okay?
Can you talk about the school's commitment to rebuild the RNA Center, one of the oldest RNA centers in the country?
Yeah, thank you.
Falling apart completely.
Yeah, well,
Will you repeat the question?
yeah, so the question, thank you, is about the RNA Center. Okay, so we started the RNA Center, not me, but Tim Nielsen. And it was the premier center in the country. Started RNA, I think, the magazine, a highly touted magazine. And over the past 4 years, we've had attrition of our faculty. A number of people left. They're doing fine, but they're not here. So what do we do now? So this is a classic example of how do you re-evolve an area where you had expertise. Do you just say, okay, we're going to hire 4 more people, put them back in the center? Well, what? So I've asked the chair of biochemistry, the RNA faculty, Bill Sheeman, to get together and say, what is it? What's the next vision for RNA? Okay? So we want to expand that competency and the expertise. If we can keep it as a center, right now as a secondary appointment center, fine. If we should build it out otherwise, fine. Should it be in biochemistry? Should it be in genetics? Should it be elsewhere? Those conversations need to be had. Will we be recruiting into this space? Absolutely. Okay, my hunch is we need somewhere between 2 and 5 people at the faculty level to re-energize, but just what the nature of that, where the next frontier is in the RNA science, you guys have to explain to me. But we'll reinvest in that space.
Last year, apparently, the finance department took a departure from the school of medicine policy on faculty salary increases. Are you going to correct that, or are you going to continue that in the coming year?
I'm not sure what the challenge was.
Money was placed inappropriately in the incentive category rather than in the merit category.
I don't understand the challenge since it happens at the level of the chairs. So the chairs make the determination as far as I know.
My chair said he was told to put it in the incentive category, so it was not his discretion.
Well, it's perfectly clear that the chairs should be navigated to a consistency across the school. So I'd have to look back and sort of see what actually happened with that particular setting of the distribution. I am concerned that the program of incentive and merit has reached a sort of a disequilibrium. You sort of like to have merit, which goes into base, and incentive mean different things, okay? So on an individual basis and the approaches individual chairs have taken, it's gotten out of whack. So some departments have a big imbalance versus the other, which intrinsically doesn't make sense. So globally, I want us to have a dual appreciation of the differences in approach and needs for incentive and merit. an incentive needs to be seen as a carrot that's sometimes caught and sometimes not caught. So otherwise it doesn't have a meaning. But whatever happens in a particular, I'm happy to have any chair come and we'll chat about it. So, but I also need to get our finance team back up so we can get some of those detailed demographics reset. It's an important issue.
If you could hold on one second, I just had a note in the chat that people online can't hear without the microphone.
So this, I just wanted to follow up briefly on the engagement, disengagement thing. And sort of following on this, I got an email about 5-10 minutes ago from one of my faculty who said they had no idea this particular meeting was happening. And he then polled the other faculty, and a lot of them didn't know that this meeting was happening. So there's a communication issue. The faculty, at least those that just emailed me, clearly want to be engaged, but they are unaware of some of these opportunities.
First of all, I hear it, I get it, and sometimes actually I say, where's the notification came to me? I'm actually, my hunch is, I'm not sure, but my hunch is that many of us, of course nobody in this room because you're here, that's good, have over the course of our email methodologies, whatever happens at our own computers or cell phones, have dissed and distinguished a source. So I've actually asked our communications people to change the email source, because I bet 20% of us have clicked the trash button whenever that particular email comes. That's my hunch, okay? And the only way around it is to have a new email source.
I tend to agree with that, but I will say in my own case, I only got one notification of this, and I actually could not find the live stream. One of the reasons I'm here.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which is good. But I do get all of the ones about the foundation grants and the opportunities. Those I get on a daily basis. So they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, we'll do some homework on this. I appreciate the challenge.
I'm actually going to put in a little self-serving plug in relation to that. You know, we have a shared faculty governance here between the administration and faculty council that Stan's alluded to, and all of our departments have reps. And the reps are supposed to inform departments and their faculty about what goes on. And we just had one on Monday. And in my pre-meeting slides, I included a slide about this presentation and asked all of the reps to let all of their faculty know. So I think maybe we could try to engage our faculty council reps who might have a little bit more credibility with the individual faculty council members, because we do try to get to faculty from a couple different ways. So if you could all do that, I think that would also help communications.
Stan, I'm really excited about the Dean Scholar program, but I'm not sure what the application process is and how we're identifying or growing the applicant pool. So a suggestion is to circulate, again, the information on how people would apply. And second, a question, are those applicants for postdoctoral positions going to be brought forward after they have applied to individual mentors here, which is sort of the apprentice system that I think we should get away from in postdoctoral training? Or will they apply to, programmatically to the program and then be able to find a mentor?
I think if I can, I think I'm going to have Marvin talk about the method he's using. You see Marvin? He'll raise his hand.
The answer is both, either entryway. So if someone is matched with a mentor who wants to come in to the program, that's okay. If someone reaches out and is like, I'm interested in this program, we can have a match system as well. For promotion, we are promoting it not only to our own graduate students, but widely. It's open to any, it's not just open to our graduate students. We want to encourage them who are eligible, but also more broadly. I'm going to make this easier.
That's great. I just think that in the latter case, we don't have an awareness and a system to get the ones that don't bubble up through our faculty as, apprentice system. And so we need to create that new application approach.
I'm delighted we're actually even mentioning this, because I don't know about you all that have graduate students, but the timeline that a graduate student takes to when they become a postdoc and where they become a postdoc and how long they take to incubate options varies tremendously. Some graduate and then say, oh my God, what am I going to do? Some think about it a year ahead of time. So I'd love to encourage folks to start thinking early, especially from this group, because that's the time to capture them for an interest in an academic career. And we really do intend to provide significant support in a graded fashion up. So it's actually going to be a pretty cool program. Derek.
Hi, Stan. On this postdoc topic, one of the challenges as a well-funded investigator here is actually staffing the lab, especially at the postdoc level. Northwestern, Vanderbilt, even the Cleveland Clinic have programs where they bring in postdoc symposiums and give their faculty access to postdocs. Is there any plan to sort of increase that aspect of the workforce beyond the Dean's strategic initiative, maybe more broadly?
So there's a couple different elements there. First, the chairs are in the process of developing a more proactive program for enticing the environment for postdoc training and value. A second piece is postdoc salaries, and so we're actually looking at that to make sure that we are competitive with postdoc salaries. The third of bringing folks in as a periodic symposium for graduate students who become postdocs, I think it's okay. To me, it's really inefficient. It's okay with me if we do it. It doesn't cost very much to get it organized and have a day of posters and interactions and engagements. My gut is it's a fair bit of work for a small amount of yield. I think the program development and aura around why to come here for a postdoc is look at all these cool bells and whistles that happen, that would be effective. But we don't have it yet, so I'd love to see that get developed, and we'll figure out how to support it. Cliff?
Stan, while we're on training, I'd like to ask about mentoring. As you know, the NIH and our universities, academic society across the U.S. is really recognizing the need for training of mentors. And I think that many of us who have been mentors, especially those of us who've been mentors for a long time, may think we already know how to do it, so we don't need to be trained. But that, frankly, is not the approach that's not the way we can think about this anymore. And I think that for our PhD programs and for our postdocs, the trainers need to be trained. And I guess I've given my agenda there, but I'd like to hear from the dean, or I'd like the faculty to hear from the dean, what the dean thinks about, having us move into the modern era of mentor training and our expectations as a school for that.
We need to. I have on my bookshelf on being a mentor, which I look at periodically, and it's helpful. So yes, we need to train. To me, it's also part of leadership training, so it should be part of our leadership curriculum. And then for the T32 programs, I think we got to get people certified as having gone through a mentoring course. It's not very hard. It's sort of fun. You remind yourself about good practices and being kind and engaged. So all those things I think are really critical. And I think we can all learn if we give some thought to training, to mentoring.
There's actually one question online that goes back to the increase in postdoctoral candidates. It says, it's my understanding that we want a higher number of PhD candidates. What are the benefits of that? So speaking about the growth of the PhD.
Yeah, so there's two elements here. We do actually want to slowly increase our PhD candidate numbers to the BSCP program. I'm not sure where we want to asymptote it, but probably 5 to 7 more per year. And I think that'll become obvious even more as we expand faculty. In terms of postdocs, you know, what's the elevator speech of why you'd want to do a postdoc, okay? I think the best intellectual training happens in an academic environment. Learning how to ask difficult and complex discovery questions happens in an academic environment. Learning and engaging in as diverse approach of the way to ask questions happens in an academic environment. What you do with it beyond that can be a myriad of activities. I don't think we should just think of our postdocs as individuals who become professors. I think most of them will actually get out into the community, into the workforce, into biotech, et cetera, and do great, as our distinguished alumni lecturers did. But they learned how to think with Richard Hansen. So that was spectacular for them. So you can't get these skills outside of an academic environment. So that's the elevator speech.
That's it.
All right, guys, thank you. We'll break.